Hello again. I'm here to make another video on the aftermath of the breakup with the narcissist. Just some sort of random thoughts. Um, this is day 5 in no contact, which has actually worked out pretty well. One of the things that he likes to do is text pretty often. He also does the ghosting thing. So you're either sort of out in the cold or he's just turned on towards you. One of his techniques, which is kind of strange, but actually pretty clever on the texting, is he'll send some funny little picture across the text to just sort of test what your attitude towards him is. If you're going to respond, how you respond, and then that opens up this whole thing. And so he has no risk at all in contacting you because, he was just going to send you a funny picture if you're not inclined to talk to him, which I've never not talked to him. But I think he's so afraid of rejection that that's his technique. And I'm kind of a warm-hearted, caring person when I decide to care about somebody. Now, I don't decide to care about just tons of people, but I had decided to care about him. And that gave him a tremendous advantage in the relationship. The other thing, a mistake that I made was I admitted to him that I have tremendous abandonment issues with regard to my father, and he has exploited that to the hilt. So anyway, being on no contact, where I know that there cannot be a telephone call from his cell phone anyway, or a text message from his cell phone, has been great. I mean, I miss him terribly, but I know because of his pathology that no matter what, it's doomed. And the person who's going to get hurt the most in this is going to be me. And I can't go forward and have it make any sense for my life. So anyway, I mean, it's sort of a sad situation because I know he's in pain just because of some of the ways he's behaved. Now, I don't think he understands the pain, and I think it's on top of pain he already feels just generally being a narcissist. But I mean, he could be fooling me. I don't know, but I can't risk it. I mean, I can't go forward with him. It's a little bit sad. Another thing is that occurred to me is how my life and sort of behavior had disintegrated while he was involved in my life. I made a video the other day about how his environment and apartment and that kind of stuff was just a mess. Well, he moved in with me pretty quickly, though he didn't like to call it that because that was a commitment, or that was defining something. But when you're sleeping in the bed, bathing or taking a shower in the shower, eating in the kitchen, you come here after you go to work and you leave here to go to work, then that's living with somebody. Now, he had his apartment, but nobody in their right mind would want to stay there. Anyway, once he moved in, my life really started disintegrating. It was bizarre. Um, and I felt like I was doing nothing but kind of picking up after his mess. But he was perfectly comfortable with it. Um, the other thing was he did a ton of pot. I mean, it's just a ton of it. He was high 18 hours a day. He would get high to go to work. He would come home in the middle of the day, get high again to go back to work, come home, get high, wake up in the middle of the night at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and get high at 7 or 6:45 whenever he woke up. I mean, he was just always high. Um, he would drive to Anniston to get to visit his dealer, who I think was actually his best friend in the world. Um, to the extent that he had any friends, but he's getting a definite benefit from this guy. So there's a little bit of, I'm not exactly sure that was an altruistic relationship. But anyway, he would drive to Anniston to get this pot and just drive back the same afternoon. And then we're in Montgomery. And that's a two something hour trip one way. And he would come back with like felony amounts of pot in his car, high, smoking the whole time he's driving back. And it was just bizarre behavior. And then we had the fight after he was so rude to my friends. And that ended it because I had set some I had set some boundaries, I think. And there was a somewhat of an implied rejection on how I worded something, and I didn't mean it to come across that way. And I later corrected that with him from the standpoint of just saying, this is what I meant when I said that. But he took it as a rejection, and I think that's what he fears most. And if you can't see somebody's love for you through their anger, then there's a problem. And he kind of deserved the anger. I mean, he acted like a jackass. Um, so anyway, it's been a very bizarre situation. I'm trying to think if there was other cure. Oh, he outran a policeman. That was brilliant. I wasn't with him, thank God. Um, the policeman tried to stop him, and he was smoking pot at the time in the car, and so he decided to outrun the policeman. Um, and succeeded. I don't get it. Um, but the other thing that was weird about him was that he lived pretty much minute to minute. There wasn't a lot of forward thinking at all. He'd come up with these crazy notions of just grandiose things to do, and he would spend about 45 seconds talking about that, and then there was no follow-up conversation. I mean, these were massive things, like cities to move to, degrees to do, and he already had a master's. Um, what else? Oh, he was going to plant a garden. Now, this is one of the most undisciplined people in his life I've ever seen in my life. I've ever seen. And so, I was like, yeah, I can see you doing a garden. And in the rental property, he wanted to buy lots and lots of rental property. He has no money, none. His family has less than that. He's 27 years old. He's about 120 something thousand dollars in debt, and had to get an FHA loan to buy a very, very small house, which is fine. I mean, that's fine for everybody to do, but how are you going to handle rental property? Um, he also wanted to become a priest. That was really weird because he has no temperament for it. He's a good actor though, and so I think he could keep the facade up for a while, but he would have a really screwed up staff situation if he were a priest, because I mean they would all just be suffering because I think he would be just a terror once he had that control and didn't have to act in front of them. Um, and I asked him why he wanted to become a priest, and it was so he could be in control of everything. That was the answer. So that's a little scary. I mean, you've got people who sort of need you at the most dire times of their lives, and you ascended to that position just because you wanted to be in control of everything. Then he has this older guy that he's friends with. He treats him like crap. He's convinced the guy to name him as beneficiary on his retirement account, which is fairly large if what I've been told is true. And this guy was one of his college professors and they had sex. And the guy I was with decided to blackmail the college professor for a grade. I mean, so we're talking some crazy stuff. And he got the grade. And now, so anyway, who knows? I mean, it's been a bizarre 6 months. Bizarre. And it's like there's like a malevolent force that I cannot put my finger on that has just been sort of wrecking things, minor things, but mostly disturbing my spirit in the last few months. And I don't know what it is, but I'm ready for it to be gone. Having him out of my life is one step in that process, and I hope it's a big one. The weird thing about the breakup was after we had that fight, I started figuring out that he's a covert narcissist. And I didn't know what that term was. I'd only ever heard grandiose narcissist and only ever encountered a grandiose narcissist. But the whole time we were together, not like every day, but frequently, it would kind of tick in my head, is this guy a narcissist? And I would always answer no, because he didn't match the other two that were the grandiose type that had come into my life. And so I thought I was okay. Then that night, the night of this humongous fight, I got online and I got to figure this out because there is something wrong. It is just wrong. And that's when I came across that term and it was like, oh my God, this is what I'm dealing with. It was scary. And so then everything started just making tons and tons of sense. So anyway, he did the ghosting thing because I was really angry with him and I sort of lashed out verbally at him, which he did not take well at all. Nor did he acknowledge or apologize for anything he had done that brought that on, as narcissists are loath to do. So anyway, so he came back over and we were going to talk and kind of see where things were after this. And he came in, sat down, I apologized for being so angry. He apologized for nothing and told me that the anger was unreasonable and that there was a lot more associated with it than that, just that. Okay, fine, whatever. And I was still kind of raw about the whole thing, so I wasn't like challenging him at this point, even though he deserved it, and I knew he deserved it. And there was stuff going through my head, but I thought I'm not gonna really go there. But anyway, so then he started his little speech where he had decided, and he was very authoritative in his delivery. So I knew something was up, and he started, well, I don't think we need to live together. Well, I already decided that too. So, and I did want him out of the house. I mean, I didn't want to necessarily break up at that point. What my strategy was going to be was to just back out of the relationship slowly, and just sort of cool things off. But so anyway, I agreed with that. Well, that didn't engender the desperate emotional response that he wanted to see, so he one-upped it. Well, then he starts into this sort of vague, undefined speech that after I listened to it for a few minutes, it was like, and I said, it sounds like we're breaking up here. He said, well, I don't really like to define things, but yeah, maybe. I said, well, okay. Well, I don't think that went over well. Now he had that shell on his face at that point. He was not revealing anything, any emotion, any reaction. It was just, he was gonna be the one in control. And so, I said some nice things about him to him, and how much I enjoyed being with him and all that kind of thing. And then he starts this business about, well, if we're meant to be together, we will. And I was like, well, you just broke up. I mean, I don't understand that. So how does if we're meant to be together, we will stuff come into play? But I didn't say any of that. So anyway, then I said, well, I've got some of your stuff. And I had all of his clothes that he had left and some other stuff all gathered up and handed it to him, which showed him that I had done some forethought about getting him out of the house. And I really had done some forethought about getting him out of the house, but I hadn't done some forethought about breaking up at that point. But anyway, I don't think that went over too well. I think that injured his pride. And so then he took the stuff out to the car, came back and took his key off the ring. And he got mad. And so I'm just sitting there thinking, well, you just did this. And so anyway, it's just weird. Very strange. I mean, I'm going to be okay. I'm grieving, but oddly, I don't know about what. Because I know what I saw in him was not him. Maybe I'm grieving the fictional character. I mean, I don't know what it is. It doesn't feel good, but I know, that was a doomed situation. So anyway, that's just sort of rambling. Helps me feel better to do it. If you have any comments, let me know. Have a good day.